Kingdom Animalia. As we discussed earlier, these are eukaryotic, multicellular, heterotrophic organisms that lack a cell wall. We can further classify these creatures based on more derived body plans and physiology. Let's begin with the most primitive form, the porifera or the sponges. The porifera are the oldest known group of multicellular organisms in existence. They display a very primitive condition of animalia, in that they are characterized by very little differentiation in tissues. The structure of sponges is supported by a dead framework of calcareous skeleton which covers the organism. Inside there are cells which are arranged in layers. These cells possess cilia which vibrate to produce water currents. The cilia also help to filter tiny food particles from the water, which is then expelled from openings or pores on the outside of the organism. The porifera are almost exclusively marine. Next, we come to the coelenterata or the cnidaria. The cnidaria represents the next step in the evolution of multicellularity. They have a sac-like body which consists of clearly differentiated layers of cells, of which there are two. One layer on the outside and another on the inside. They also display specialized stinging cells called nematocysts used both to capture prey as well as to defend against predation. Examples include the jellyfish, the sea anemone, and freshwater forms like the hydra. The platyhelminths or flatworms. The platyhelminths display far more fine differentiation and specialization of tissue types compared to the earlier groups we studied. Notably, they have three distinct layers of tissues, which allows them to develop structures analogous to organs found in more derived higher animals. This makes them triploblastic. They are dorsoventrally flattened or flattened top to bottom, hence their name, the flatworms. However, unlike higher animals, platyhelminths do not have a true coelom or body cavity which is required to house true organ systems. Some members even have a highly primitive eye-like structure that can detect light but cannot really form true images. A large proportion of members of this group are parasitic, subsisting inside other organisms and drawing nourishment from them. For example, the tapeworm and liver flukes. However, there are also free-living forms like planaria, which is found in freshwater. The nematoda. These are also triploblastic, so they have three layers of tissues. They are bilaterally symmetrical, meaning the left half of the body is a mirror image of the right half. However, they have cylindrical bodies. They have a sac-like structure inside the body called a pseudocoelom, which while cannot house true real organs, but can contain organ-like structures. They are extremely abundant in soil and are also found in several parasitic forms, like the filarial worms which cause elephantiasis in humans, and intestinal worms which cause malnourishment in humans. Next, we come to the annelids. The annelids are the most primitive living group of multicellular organisms which display triploblastic condition and have a true coelomic cavity. They have true organ differentiation and have a highly advanced nervous system. These worms display bilateral symmetry and also segmentation, in which the body develops by the addition of successive, nearly identical segments. They are found in a variety of habitats with predatory and parasitic forms as well. Common examples include the humble earthworm, leeches, etc. Mollusca. The word mollusk means soft. These organisms have a very reduced but true coelom, an open circulatory system, and a muscular foot-like structure for locomotion. Common examples include garden snails, clams, and octopi. They have almost no segmentation. Echinodermata. Echinos is a word which means hedgehog in Greek. A hedgehog is a small spiny animal. These creatures are characterized by the presence of a flexible calcareous outer covering of tiny spines. They have a strange hydraulic skeleton, meaning that their body gets its shape and texture not from a true skeleton but by changing the water pressure inside the organism. Their locomotor system is called tube feet, which also depends on the changing pressure of water to move. Echinoderms are characterized by bilateral and radial symmetry and display a wide range of morphologies. Examples are sea stars, sea cucumbers, and starfish. The protochordata. We now come to the protochordates. The protochordates are very distant cousins of chordates, which is the group that includes us, which we will get to in a moment. The protochordates have a new novel feature in their anatomy. A strong, flexible cylinder of dense tissue running the length of the body from head to tail, which is called the notochord. At some stage in their life cycle, the protochordates lose this structure. This structure also separates the nervous system from the gut in these organisms. This group is marine in origin. Examples include Balanoglossus and Herdmania. Next, we come to the chordates, and within the chordates, we come to the vertebrates. The vertebrates are considered the most derived of all multicellular groups today. Their defining characteristics are a notochord, a dorsal nerve cord, true triploblastic condition and a true coelom, paired gill pouches, and a post-anal tail. The first group we consider are the most primitive living vertebrates, the cyclostomata. Cyclostomata literally means circular mouth, based on the distinctive mouth morphology of these animals. They are aquatic and have freshwater and marine forms. They have no true jaws, very simple gills, slimy and scaleless skin. Examples include the myxine or hagfish and the lamprey, both of which are parasitic forms. Next, we come to the Pisces, which includes the true fish. The true fish are characterized by the presence of a true jaw, which is actually a highly modified structure derived from the gills. They also have scales and a true skeleton composed of hard bone. The spine persists throughout their lives and encloses the nervous system, and they also display a high degree of differentiation in their digestive and other systems. However, the fish are completely limited to purely aquatic habitats, both freshwater and marine. The next step in evolution was for some species of fish to develop the ability to move on to land, and they were the ancestors of the first amphibians, which is the next group that we shall study. The amphibians are a group of terrestrial vertebrates which have not completely lost their link with water. Amphibians still depend on water to lay their eggs and raise their young. The amphibian condition is characterized by the presence of smooth, slimy skin which needs to remain wet at all times, because amphibians depend on both their lung structures and their skin to absorb oxygen from the environment. Common examples of amphibians include frogs, toads, and salamanders. Amphibians can subsist outside water, however, they are limited by the need to keep their skin moist. Also, all amphibians eventually must return to water to lay their eggs and raise their young. The next step in evolution was for some primitive amphibians to become independent of the need to be near water. And these primitive amphibians became the ancestors of the first reptiles, which is the next group we will study. The reptilia were the first true terrestrial vertebrates that had the ability to function independently of water. They have a different method of breathing compared to amphibians in that they depend entirely on their lungs. Reptile skin is dry and scaly and does not assist in respiration. Reptiles also lay their eggs on land and have no dependency on water to raise their young. The eggs are enclosed in a hard outer sheath called an amnion, which prevents the loss of water in terrestrial habitats. Examples include lizards, turtles, crocodiles, etc. The aves are the group that consists of birds. Birds are highly derived terrestrial vertebrates that have become secondarily adapted for a flying lifestyle. Every feature in these creatures' anatomy has been geared towards reducing weight and increasing strength. The birds are characterized by the presence of scaly skin covered in feathers. Their bones are extremely hollow and their body contains air sacs which assist in higher respiratory efficiency and also reduce their mass. They are also characterized by highly modified front limbs which have turned into wing structures which allows them to locomote through the air. The mammals are the group of terrestrial vertebrates that we belong to. The most important feature that separates mammals from all other vertebrates are the presence of mammary glands on females, which are used by them to give their youngs milk. Mammals also have skin covered with soft hair. They are also homeothermic, meaning mammals have a high degree of control over their body temperature. They also gestate their young inside their body and give birth to live young.